Welcome to the broadcast, my dear. Enchanté, oh la la, bonsoir, bienvenue. Come hither because we are going to France, aren't we? It's all about France this week. So we're coming over, ooh la la, ooh la la. I was going to sit upright and give it the old pizzazz and be very formal. But oh, this squishy, comfy sofa. Ooh, I showed you around in a previous broadcast, but oh, the scatter cushions, the comfy pillows. It's so inviting, so I invite you to come and sit with me, my dear. Get cosy. Put on the kettle, put up a throne. Come join me on the sofa, my dear, while we discuss, oh, poor old Brigitte Macron, doesn't she? Please, I will not tolerate hatred towards Brigitte Macron. In the comments, no, I'm putting my foot down and I'm being a petty dictator because I think she or he is rather fabulous. I really do. Ever since she slugged old Macron round the chops, I just adore the girl. And I won't have a word said about her. And despite what the Candaces and everybody else says about poor Brigitte, you know, the press are up to their usual mischief, of course, saying that she humiliated Macron when she arrived for the state visit and she got off of the plane, the jet, you know. She ignored him, she humiliated him. Well, I watched it live and I saw the footage, and in fact, no. She didn't take the proffered hand from the polite Manny Macron, but neither did she ignore him. She glanced at him. There was a smile. I mean, she didn't jump up and down with glee and throw her arms around him. But like most husbands and wives, she didn't make much of a show of it. She was just like, I'm fine, thank you. Gave him what I thought was a really quite sweet, if fleeting, little grin, and then moved on. I mean, you know, to be honest with you, I would rather that. I would rather she slogged him round the face now and then, around the chops, and ignored a proffered hand, if that's what ignoring is, than put on a great big show of PDA and touchy-feely and, oh, we're the most perfect couple in the whole wide fucking world, like the Harkles. I would much rather that, and I find it much more authentic, to be quite honest with you. Each to their own, I suppose, but, you know, she's just getting beaten up so badly, and it's come to light that actually, although she's not always the most photogenic, and she does look a little bit frosty and orcs in some photographs, the fact is that it's come to light her beloved sister died just last week. She is in deep bereavement and grief. She was very close to her sister, and instead of staying home and staying in mourning, she got on with her duty. And she came to the kingdom to do what she had to do. So, I feel a bit protective over the girl, I do. I don't like when I sense people being bullied. It's one thing to be critiqued, and it's one thing if the critique is justified, but bullying I'm not so keen on. Anyway, there were no fisticuffs this time as they alighted the plane. And Mrs. Macron's coiffure was in an updo, which is far better on her. She should always wear the hair up, shouldn't she, my dear? It swings all over the place, that weave confection, you know. It's far better on her, this updo, more practical, and she was greeted by the Prince and Princess of Wales, which is always a lovely touch, isn't it? Couldn't really ask for more. And Catherine, of course, received French bisous to the royal hand from the President, Mr. Macron, and Catherine's jacket and skirt were Dior, in a nod to France, of course. She does it so well. This was the pinky beigey tulle number, complemented by a beige boater by Jess Collett, who was the young lady who created Catherine and Charlotte's headpieces for the coronation. Remember those bespoke pieces? Well, she created this hat as well, this confection for Catherine. And the suede heels were very elegant together with the tulle, and she toted a mulberry Bayswater clutch, and actually it went down extremely well. People, including French people, saying that she was the height of chic. Her throat was adorned with Queen Elizabeth's triple pearl strand, and the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery fired a 41-gun salute as President Macron arrived in Windsor. It was a gorgeous day for it, actually, and Windsor Castle is the venue for this, while Buckingham Palace continues its enormous renovation project. Anthems were played, and their Majesties received their guests. Her Majesty was robed in a bright green, so I appreciate the fact that she wasn't wearing blue again and again. We see so much blue, so we're getting a nice rainbow affinity of colours lately. Bright green. President Macron inspected a guard of honour with the king, which was formed by the ancient regiments of the Grenadier Guards and Scots Guards. And I heard afterwards that the king had burst a small blood vessel in one of his eyes, so it was a bit bloodshot. I have to say, well, I wasn't wearing my spectacles, but I didn't notice that. I actually thought to myself, oh, he's actually looking really good and really rather hale and healthy and rather handsome. Well rested, you know. Well, as I told you recently, there's great affection between their majesties and the Macrons. Despite what's going on in the rest of the world, despite, a lot of this coverage that I'm giving to you here in the broadcast is politics aside. We all know that Macron is not going down with many of us here in the kingdom. Neither his politics or his own personality not going down too well. And some people aren't taken with Brigitte. I can't think why, because I think she's absolutely a fantastic icon. She puts me in mind of Amanda Lear. But, their majesty, I'm talking personally, on a personal note and personal affection, they get on so famously. They're all spending time together. I'm surprised they don't pool the car keys in a little pot and go swapsies halfway through the evening. But, both of the Macrons showered everyone in lots of kisses, and they received them. There were kisses and touches and regal curtsies from Catherine for their majesties. There was even a kiss for stepmama from William. And it was très civilised, you understand, très civilised, kicking off this 3-day jamboree at Windsor. Charles and Camilla were hosted by the Macrons in 2023. Oh, that's gone quickly, hasn't it, my dears? Oh, it's flown by. That was following their coronation. And then, of course, it was time for the state banquet. Oh, la la, yummy, yummy. I wouldn't mind a slice of what they were cooking up. And it was a glittering affair. Let's face it, let's be entirely honest. It was a glittering affair. Red, white and blue were the colours of the day, and Catherine, in the same royal family orders on full display, featuring Elizabeth and Charles. And her gown was by Sarah Burton for Givenchy. It was a red silk crepon in dramatic red with a caped detail to the back. Sarah Burton, of course, is actually the young lass who designed her wedding gown when she was with McQueen. Now she's with Givenchy. Do you see how the circle turns? And the bag was Givenchy bespoke, with Queen Mary's lover's knot tiara to the head, and that was paired with the Greville diamond chandelier earrings and black velvet heels by Jimmy Choo. Guess who I saw at the railway station? Speaking of Jimmy's, Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr walked past me at Paddington this week, and I only mention that because I find him strangely and peculiarly attractive. Oh yes, he could have a good old go whenever he wants, my dear. Jimmy, if you're watching, I nearly actually approached him and said, look out for the River broadcast and see if you fancy a bit. Actually, I think he's taken, isn't he? And I don't really do other ladies' men. But if he begged. Queen Camilla killed it last time at the Palace of Versailles, didn't she? Do you remember a couple of years ago when she wore that very dark blue sort of caped number, didn't she? She killed it. Oh, she was so chic, she astonished everybody. Not so in love this time with her outfit. I am told, actually, by two people who were actually at the state banquet, that she looked ravishing in the flesh. And sometimes one does look better in close-up than from a distance. I do, actually. I actually look a lot more attractive, believe it or not, when I'm much closer to you. The further back I go, the more grotesque I become. That's what I like to believe, anyway. But, yeah, this time around, although white looks wonderful on Camilla, the jewels looked stunning on Camilla. The dress looked matronly, didn't it? It's something about her shape. She looks so fabulous in so many of the summer dresses. Actually, the following day she looks divine in a lovely sort of tea dress number. And when she wears the Liberty pattern, coronation, fabric gowns, she gets it just right. This time, I'm sure the fabric is exquisite, the work that goes into these things is wonderful, but she comes across as a frump, doesn't she, and quite dowdy and a little bit shapeless, which is unfortunate, but we've got to be honest about these things, haven't we? But you saw the flash of the bright red sash of the French Legion of Honour, and she wore the late Queen's sapphires. I actually thought they were purple to begin with, those stones, but the sapphires, the Belgian sapphire tiara, with very chunky gems. And the Princess Royal brought out the jewels, her diamond festoon tiara, necklace and earrings. And also she added a diamond ribbon brooch that was given to her as a gift from Prince Charles in the 1970s. It was a wedding gift in 1973. And then there was Sophie, our golden trophy, in contemporary diamond and aquamarine tiara. and the Duchess of Gloucester was very elegant in the Tech Turquoise Parure, which was a wedding gift for Queen Mary back in 1893. She got it from her parents, and she did an interesting thing to Duchess Gloucester. She added a second layer of antique diamond and pearl, and I'm quite sure that must have impressed her neighbour at dinner, who was old Dame Elton. Yes, Elton John was there in full display. Now let's talk about Catherine, and let's applaud her, shall we? Because there's still such a long journey of recovery that will take many years, if not the rest of her life, to cope with the trauma of what she's been through and the repercussions of her treatments. But she has performed with royal excellence, and I'm quite sure there were moments over the last few days when she did not want to be involved in these state goings-on, but it was her duty, and it wouldn't have been easy for her. We know that she's been taken tender up until very recently, here and there. William is quite evidently her strength and her stay, just like Philip was for Elizabeth. And it's also quite obvious that she is the same for William. And it's beautiful to watch. She sat next to Emmanuel Macron, and I'm sure they had a little bit of flirtation there. The theatre of Gallic charm interplayed with the reserve of British charm is always interesting. And as the King said, Britain and France would not be friends without our differences. Vive la différence! Indeed, well, the soundbite that was taken away from His Majesty's speech is the suggestion that the entente cordiale of legend be upgraded to the entente amicale, which is possible in relationship to royalty, but politically we are in fact frenemies. I mean, let's be honest, my dear, we're less friends and more frenemies when it comes to our darling France. There's a lot of fury and much disillusionment towards Macron from much of Britain, as I mentioned, and I'm quite sure that the feeling is reciprocated from our French frogs. Well, you have to understand this is an advantage of constitutional monarchy, as we know it, because no matter the animosity and the quarrelling between governments and administrations, the goodwill and the conviviality of royal ties and solid friendship is a powerful, consistent undercurrent that bolsters and, dare I say, protects in some fashion. It's in the national interest to strengthen bonds and ties with heads of states, no matter their persuasion, politically speaking, and it's why the Sussexes actually would have been a dismal failure in a role such as a King Harry or a Queen Meg. An absolute disaster. They didn't have what it takes, despite the fact that they think that they are the ones that were destined for the role and for the duty. Remember, this is the very room. This is the very bedchamber. There is it. That is the bed that Meghan slept in the night before she married Harry, if you didn't see the previous broadcast. That is where she lay, her head down, and she woke up and she looked out of this window that very morning that you all tuned in your billions. And she trotted on down to Windsor after sitting on this very sofa, my dear. This is where her body was placed. This is the room where she took those final moments before royalty hit her. And she chucked it all back in everyone's face, didn't she, my dear? This comfy sofa was wasted on the likes of her. I'm sorry the thing keeps wobbling. I've had to balance you on a little poof. That happens from time to time. But they would have been a dismal failure as king and queen because they would snub those of persuasions that they did not concur with, as they did, and they made their feelings very clear about Trump. And it doesn't matter whether it's Trump, Biden, Macron, Merkel, who's the other Frenchie that lost recently, Le Pen. It does not matter. When you are a head of state, and especially when you are a majesty, you receive with goodwill and good nature, and you model elegance and grace to all. Well, I'm sure you're curious about the menu. That's always the best bit, isn't it, my dear? It began with canapes. Actually, the menu is very simple. It always is. That's the secret of good food, isn't it? Just solid, fabulous, wonderful, organic, I suppose you could say, ingredients, but beautifully seasoned and presented. So they started with summer veg from La Manoir Gardens with sage and tomato. Then there was chicken supreme. It sounds like school dinners. Chicken supreme with asparagus and tarragon cream. Oh dear, they're all going to have smelly piss later on, aren't they, my dear? Smelly wee-wees. Yeah, that's what asparagus is going to do for them. And then for pudding, and occasionally someone will pick me up for this, I don't think you understand. In our world, it's pudding. It's not dessert. Dessert is in the same sort of vein as serviette. one doesn't go in for that kind of thing. It's napkin and it's pudding, no matter what you're eating. In certain sections of our world, you understand? I'm not speaking for the whole kingdom, not the hoi polloi, but in certain circles. For pudding, iced blackcurrant parfait on a blackcurrant sponge with elderflower jelly. Yum, yum, very summery. And then that was followed by coffee and petit four. Oh, the stars came out. It was a galaxy of the good and great and the weird and wacky. Mick Jagger, Christian Scott Thomas, Lord and Lady Furnish. I thought you were Team Harry Day Melton of the Furnished Chamber Pot. I thought you were Team Harry, and here you are, queening it around the table for the king. Well, we'll forgive you. The stars are out, and they wanted a good feed, didn't they? So you can furnish yourself, Madam Furnish. Such a bizarre surname, isn't it? David Furnish. The furnishings of Windsor Castle, they wanted a good feed. President Macron mentioned the late Queen Elizabeth, and he said, to you, she was your queen. To us, she was the queen. She was the queen. And he said, when our sense and sensibility overcomes our pride and prejudice, we are unstoppable. Now you have created the l'entente amicale. The entente amicale will be launched in Windsor in 2025. And we want to believe in this new era. Let's face it, there's no trust. I mean, there's very good conviviality between the royals and the Macrons, but between the nations, there's no trust. Let's be honest about this, and Macron made that clear. We'd like to believe in this new approach, but we'll believe it when we see it, I think is what he's really saying there. Fair enough, ooh la la. Catherine was also very busy, wasn't she, a few days beforehand at the Royal Horticultural Society's Wellbeing Garden, and she wore this charmer blazer paired with the Ralph Lauren shirt, and she wore that garnet birthstone necklace. Quite delightful, very underplayed, understated. This was at Colchester Hospital, at their Wellbeing Garden, you see, and she was highlighting how nature supports mental and physical health. And she got down in the flower beds and she braved the drizzle. Actually, it mussed up her hair a little bit, but she didn't seem to mind. She got her hands very dirty. Adam Frost, who led the garden design, said, you can tell she truly understands the power of nature and what we're trying to achieve as gardeners. When the Princess of Wales kneels down with her hands in the soil without hesitation, you know she really gets it. And Catherine joined volunteers to plant Catherine's Rose, with the proceeds going to the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity, and 50 of them have been donated to Colchester Hospital. And Catherine spoke with patients and staff at the hospital's Cancer Wellbeing Centre. She was so engaging, very enchanting. And William was also praised recently by Eamon Kelly. Mr. Kelly is one of the big issue vendors, and he was motivated to stop taking drugs after he met with William in 2022 at Jimmy's charity for rough sleepers. He said, I just lost my mum that February, but when I met William, it pulled me out of wallowing and got me motivated. I realised I had to get these drugs out of my system. Since then, I've not touched anything. Well done, William, and well done, Eamon Kelly. That's exactly the kind of news we love to hear, isn't it? Oh, Meghan has been up to a few old tricks, by the way. She was on Instagram saying, our second date was the 4th of July, 2016, and H brought me cupcakes to celebrate. Now, all these years later, our 2 children are in on the tradition. Happy Independence Day. May your day be as sweet as these cupcakes. Oh, yeah, it was 4th of July, wasn't it? Oh, the time's flown since then. Well, if she's celebrating independence from the Crown, which was back in King George III's day, she doesn't realise that her children's cousin will soon be overseeing them all as King George the... what's he going to be? 7th. But if they're celebrating Independence Day, then perhaps it's the ideal opportunity to surrender your royal titles, Meghan and Harry, and that of Prince Archie and Princess Lil Diana. Lil Diana. Yeah. It's time for you to surrender their titles and celebrate Independence Day in that manner. If you reject royalty so very, very enthusiastically. Let them eat cake. Never mind your cupcakes from house. Let them eat cake. She prepares a fruit platter in red, white, and blue. And a serious business just for a moment, because it's been the 20th anniversary. I hate using that sort of word for a sinister event, but there were bombings here in the kingdom on the 7th of the 7th, 2005. There were 4 coordinated blasts on the bus and the underground, public transport, suicide bombers, Islamists, which have proliferated by the dozens since then, by the 100. So everything's going downhill. But 52 innocents were killed that day, of all persuasions, by the way, and all colours. 52 of them dead. Islamist terrorists, and Sophie and Edward attended a service at St Paul's, and actually Prince William himself paid tribute. He laid flowers, and he joined the bereaved, and he spoke to survivors and joined some of them. And there was a wonderful memorial with 52 pillars representing each life lost. The King said, "Today, as we mark 20 years since the tragic events of the 7th of July 2005, my heartfelt thoughts and special prayers remain with all those whose lives were forever changed on that terrible summer's day. While the horrors will never be forgotten, we may take comfort from the way such events rally communities together in solidarity, solace and determination. It is this spirit of unity that has helped London and our nation to heal. As we remember those we lost, let us therefore use this 20th anniversary to reaffirm our commitment to building a society where people of all faiths and backgrounds can live together with mutual respect and understanding." Oh, bollocks, 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 bollocks to all that shit. "Always standing firm against those who would seek to divide us." Yeah, Islamists, get them out, together with all the mass immigrated ones that have come over, all the young men in their hundreds and thousands. Put a stop to that. And tell Macron to get his finger out of his French backside and do something about it as well while you're at it. Yeah. Hey, let's get real here. All this fucking reaffirm our commitment talk. All faiths and backgrounds. Yeah, we'll welcome anybody. To the point where they don't take the piss out of our own traditions and our own faiths and our own backgrounds. Let's not get it twisted. Back to regality, and Prince Edward has been in Canada. Did you see him, my Canadian fruits? Yeah. The Duke of Edinburgh, as Colonel-in-Chief of the Prince Edward Island Regiment, visited Prince Edward Island to attend celebrations to mark the 150th anniversary of the regiment, including a Freedom of the City parade. His Royal Highness has been Colonel-in-Chief for 20 years, and on the island the Duke visited one of the First Nations, and he took part in an education forum with representatives of the 4 Atlantic provinces and met youth organisations. While he was in Toronto, Edward visited the Hastings and Prince Edward Regiment, of which he is Colonel-in-Chief, as well as the Naval Reserve Unit, HMCS York and CFB Trenton Air Base. Edward met community leaders and emerging youth leaders with engagements recognising the service of public sector organisations. He celebrated the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award, which equips young Canadians to reach their full potential, and he attended a number of services at churches and chapels in Ontario and joined Canada Day celebrating in Ottawa, meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney. As Honorary Deputy Commissioner of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, he had horsey time at the stables. I bet that was his favourite. Thank you most sincerely for joining me. I look forward to seeing you in the next broadcast. Take care, my darlings, and toodle.